Hello and welcome to episode 55, which is one of those weird numbers which is the same forwards as it is back. I'm sure my co-host will tell you what that is in a minute. Speaking of which, I of course am Stu from World of Stu, and it wouldn't be a show without my co-host, who is the Rose to my Jack, although I never intend to draw him nude. It's Dave.
That is just all kinds of weird, dude. I'm the Rose to your Jack.
Yeah.
So I'm the one that's going to survive this cataclysmic ship disaster and go on to live a long, fruitful life.
And on the flip side of that, you're the selfish mother who doesn't move over to allow me onto the board to also survive.
Okay, fair enough. That sounds okay. I can deal with that.
So technically, you're a murderer.
Okay. I didn't realise that. Just don't go telling anyone.
And of course, maybe there'll be a sequel. We just don't know, and frankly, we just don't care.
A sequel to Titanic?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, the ship rises up on the back of Godzilla, and then Jack returns as a White Walker from Game of Thrones and has a fight with Hellboy.
That's a movie I'd watch.
Yeah, I'd watch that too. Now, of course, we've got all the usual stuff coming up on tonight's show, so where should we begin this week? Well, I think it should be with this. So here we are with this week's superhero news, and we're going to start with Warner Brothers. Apparently Warner Brothers Home Entertainment and Fathom Events, who I've never heard of. Have you ever heard of Fathom Events?
Fathom Events, they sound familiar, I'm sure. Do they do video games?
I have no idea.
No, maybe not.
Yeah. Well, anyway, they have announced that The Killing Joke, the animated movie that's coming out later this year, will be shown in select cinemas in the US on July the 25th. How cool is that?
That is really cool. I mean, I'm not sure if I'd manage to get to the cinema to watch it myself.
Well, it's only in America anyway, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, only in America, but I have seen there are websites around the UK that are where you can pre-order The Killing Joke on Blu-ray and DVD already, and judging from the trailer, that's one I'm going to order. Actually, that's one I'm going to pre-order. It looks amazing.
Well, not only is the film going to be shown in select cinemas, right? The event will also include a never-before-seen documentary about Mark Hamill's casting for the project, as well as a special behind-the-scenes look at how the Joker's memorable yet disturbing song and dance number was recreated.
That could be cool, because, yeah, there are quite a number of pages of The Killing Joke kind of dedicated to the Joker's song, aren't there? I always found that quite catchy.
So, yeah, not only do you get to go and watch the film, but you basically get the DVD extras as well.
That'll be fun. I don't think I'll make it on any cinemas over here with it. I think it's a bit too niche, but who knows if it's successful? Maybe DC Warner Brothers will do it with more of their animated movies.
Sticking with Warner Brothers, right? Suicide Squad. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Suicide Squad supposed to be a more edgy towards R-rated movie than Batfleck vs Supervillain?
Yes, yeah, it's in the nature of the name, is it? Suicide Squad, they're the bad guys. Sure, it's going to be a bit more darker and kind of more edgy, isn't it?
Well, they've been given a PG-13 rating.
Yeah, I'm not... How can you do the Joker and Harley Quinn justice with that rating?
That is the equivalent in the UK of a 12 or a 12A.
Yeah, we get a lot of quite high 12s in this country, but yeah, that's... still sounds suspiciously low to me.
Well, that'll please our kids, of course, because they still can't watch Deadpool, but they can watch this.
Yeah, I mean, my kids are looking forward to it, to be honest. But yeah, I'm still... Yeah, that Joker looks like he's supposed to be scary as well. What are they doing with the Joker to give him a 12 rating?
Who knows? Even Jack Nicholson's Joker was more than a 12.
No. Yeah, but I remember in the UK, there was quite a debate over that at the time, because the original Batman movie was the very first 12 in this country.
Well, it should have been at least a 15 in my opinion.
It should have been. I would like to see a live-action, proper 18 Joker. That would be good.
Now, moving over to Marvel and Josh Brolin, who of course is going to be playing
Thanos.
Yeah, in the forthcoming Infinity. Now, what do you think about this news that the Infinity War is now not called the Infinity War, it's just called Avengers 3?
I don't reckon that could be true. I think they're going to have a subtitle out there somewhere, whether it's Infinity War, Invasion of Earth, or whatever they're going to be. It's got to have some kind of subtitle, surely.
Well, anyway, he's been talking about his role as Thanos in the forthcoming Infinity War / Avengers 3 and 4, obviously, and how he was impressed with the story. He went on to say, I sat at a table and I listened to the story from beginning to end. Sometimes you go around and you go, oh, that's a great movie, or this is a great experience, and you kind of know that it's not really, and that it's actually the opposite, it's quite bad. These Avengers stories all come down to this conclusion, and that's our involvement. Basically, my character against everybody, and it's really fun what they've chosen to do with the story. I think it's brilliant, personally. Of course you do, you're being paid a lot of money. I was blown away and had goose pimples. I think he means goosebumps.
Well, they call them pimples in America, don't they?
I have no idea. Pretty much 50% of the time, which means the other 50% of the time he wasn't that excited then, surely.
Maybe. Yeah, but you can get good, you know.
Anyway...
he's that shocked, that sounds cool.
Yeah, and he was pretty amazed that he's going to be involved in it, so it's a big thing that's coming up. So, how stoked and excited are you for Infinity War?
I am probably excited, actually. I think they've got a plan that after Thor Ragnarok, I think it's going to go proper hell for leather into the Infinity War, and I want to see Thanos done justice on the big screen, because he is the huge big bad guy, isn't he? But the only... And, you know, Josh Brolin saying he's impressed by it, obviously, I guess he's probably contractually obliged to anyway, but he has been involved in a lot of films. But I'm just hoping they do something with his CGI, because I thought in the only films we've seen him in so far, Guardians of the Galaxy, he just looked a little... What's the word? Stupid. That's the only word I can think of for it.
Josh Brolin, yeah, am I right in thinking that Josh Brolin wasn't actually the original Thanos the first time we saw Thanos?
Well, the very first time we saw Thanos, he just turned around and grinned, didn't he?
Yeah, and I don't think that was based on Josh Brolin, was it? They just made the character, but they didn't have an actor in mind at the time.
Yeah, no, I don't think that was him. But how much do they really need him, seriously? I mean, he's going to be almost all CGI, isn't he?
But they need the voice, don't they? So he can go, yeah, I am Thanos, and I apologise for remaking Old Boy.
Yeah, are you just going to hold that against him forever?
Yes, I am, Dave.
Okay, fair enough.
Right, moving away from Marvel, and going to Marvel Fox, if that makes sense. X-Men Apocalypse, still out, obviously, in the box office. To date, it has taken $475,911,657. Now, that doesn't sound that great to me. I don't know what you think about that.
I don't think that sounds too great. You know, for a big film with a big budget like that, I think that is... you'd struggle to describe it as a failure, wouldn't you?
Well, compare it to the previous film, Days of Future Past, which took $747,862,775.
Yeah, I mean, that was good. That's a good takings, isn't it? But this one, that doesn't sound all that impressive so far.
And I mean, if you compare X-Men Apocalypse to X-Men The Last Stand, X-Men Apocalypse 475 million, X-Men The Last Stand took $459,359,555. So there's not that much difference in box office takings between Apocalypse and the god-awful Last Stand.
Yeah, ouch. And I thought Apocalypse was much better than The Last Stand, but yeah, that kind of tells a pretty sad tale, doesn't it?
Yeah, X-Men Apocalypse, though, is the third most successful X-Men film to date, behind Days of Future Past and of course Deadpool, which ended up with $771,195,236, and of course is out on Blu-ray very, very shortly.
It is, actually. It's out on Blu-ray. I'm sure it was out on Blu-ray yesterday.
Alright, okay, so, but there is no director's cut.
No, there is no director's cut, which was a bit disappointing for me. Mine arrived yesterday, actually. I haven't had time to watch it yet, but having looked at the back of the box and seen the special features, yeah, there's a gag reel and there's a commentary by Ryan Reynolds. How cool is that?
Is it by Ryan Reynolds or is it by Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool? Because that would be awesome.
It says it's by Ryan Reynolds, but if it has Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, that will be probably the second most amazing commentary since Tropic Thunder.
Speaking of Deadpool, did you know that they had made reference to B. Arthur and showed a B. Arthur picture in the film?
Yes.
That cost them $10,000.
Really?
Yeah, just to have her image in the film.
That's daft, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Sticking with Fox and going back to 2015, Toby Kebbell, who of course played, was it Doctor Doom or just Doom in the Fantastic Four? I forget. Wasn't it just Doom?
Yeah, I think they just called him Doom, didn't they?
I am Doom! Obviously he didn't say that, but anyway. He was Doom in Josh Trank's Fantastic Four. Well, he has come out and confirmed that what Josh Trank claimed regarding a superior cut of the film that the studio vetoed is true.
Okay, so you know what? This could be really interesting. You know, there's been a few times in history, hasn't there, where you've gone a long time between one version of film and another. So if people keep on badgering away at Fox, maybe they'll release the director's cut in a few years and they're like, oh, you know what, it doesn't matter, let's just release the director's cut.
I bet they won't though, because they hate the Trank. Especially after he smashed up the house that he was staying in and everything, allegedly.
Well, yeah, they do, and the thing is, if they've got a Fantastic Four 2 planned, and they really plan to go ahead with it after the mauling the first one got, they're not going to let a director's cut come out, are they?
Funny you should mention that, because apparently producer Simon Kinberg has weighed in, claiming that the franchise is still very much in Fox's plans.
Fine, it might still be in their plans, and that's the simple fact is that they have to keep on making. As far as I understand the contract, when they bought the Fantastic Four rights from Marvel all those years ago, they have to keep on making movies, don't they?
It's like every 7 years or something?
Yeah, there has to be a movie every 7 years, otherwise the rights revert back to Marvel.
Well, let's just hope that 7 years is enough time for the Trank stank to wash off of this film.
Well, it just doesn't matter, does it? They'll make something god-awful just to keep the rights, because they don't want Marvel having it back.
And finally, in 20th Century Fox news, they have registered 2 potential titles for Wolverine 3, and both reference Weapon X. Did you see this?
No, I didn't. This could be interesting.
Well, the 2 titles are simply Weapon X and Wolverine Weapon X, so they're hardly revolutionary, but for me, and the talk of X-23 being in the film, this would suggest that we are not going to get the Old Man Logan story.
You know what, I'm kind of glad about that, because Old Man Logan is a great story, I quite like it, but how do you do Old Man Logan justice without all those cover characters, without the Hulk, without Hawkeye, without the Avengers, without Red Skull? It wouldn't make sense, would it? Not
really, no. Apparently, Patrick Stewart's going to be in it as Professor X, though.
Yeah, you know, fine. I'm sure he's not going to be in it for ages, is he? But it will be quite. Again, what was going on with the timelines? What are we we've got Deadpool. We've got 3 movies from the new X-Men franchise. What are we supposed to think for these X-Men timelines? Are just getting completely messed up.
You know who we need?
Cable?
Doc Brown. He could sort all this out.
Doc Brown would solve it. Doc Brown and the Doctor just to arrive and kind of like, look, let's just sort this out, please.
Yeah. Now, while we're on the topic of Marvel franchises, did you see that Stan Lee has revealed his favourite movie based on his work?
Yeah, I was a bit surprised by this.
Why are you surprised? Because the film he actually picked, which is Sam Raimi's first ever Spider-Man, is A, it's a good film, and B, would I be right in saying that Spider-Man is probably the character that is most synonymous with Stan Lee?
Yeah, I think it's Stan Lee's favourite character, isn't it, pretty much?
And Raimi did do the character justice in 2 films. Admittedly, he destroyed it in the 3rd with that whole emo dancing scene, but the first 2 films are pretty awesome.
Yeah, sorry, I still giggle about that when I think of Peter Parker going all dark and emo. But yeah, the first Spider-Man still stands up as a really good film, and even the fight scene towards the end with Green Goblin is pretty brutal, isn't it?
Which one are you on about? Sorry, the first one?
Yeah, the very first Spider-Man, where he's fighting Green Goblin in the end.
See, the fight's alright, but Willem Dafoe just hams it up like... He's almost like he hasn't had a meal for a couple of months because he's eating up the scenery.
Yeah, it is. He is really cheesy. I'll admit that, but I think that was a different era of comic book villainy, wasn't it?
The only way that character could have been worse is if it had been played by Nicolas Cage.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be amazing.
Speaking of which, I haven't got this story down, but just something I remember reading. Did you see that apparently Brandon Routh wasn't the first choice for Superman in Superman Returns?
Shocker there. Who was the first choice then?
Jude Law.
No.
Who was actually given the job but refused it because he didn't fancy the suit.
That's a bit picky, isn't it?
What do you expect? What do you think Superman's going to wear? Although, of course, we've got Superman Lives and the whole thing there, so we won't even go there. Speaking of Superman, or Superville versus Batfleck, cinematographer who worked on that film, Larry Fong, has quickly changed his tune after initially tweeting that he had seen the Ultimate Edition of the film and it wouldn't, in his opinion, change people's minds on the film. So basically, thought the film was crap, you're going to see the Ultimate Edition and still think it's crap. However, a couple of days later, no doubt after Warner Brothers gave him a massive slap on the wrist, he retweeted saying that he'd watched the film again and that everyone's going to love it.
You know what? Okay, yeah, that obviously sounds really disingenuous, doesn't it? So yeah, everyone's going to love it, it's going to be great. But I think he's probably being really honest there. Director's cuts, let's be honest, all the Lord of the Rings films, director's extended cuts. If you like the film, you're probably going to like the extended cut. At the end of the day, wasn't Dawn of Justice, wasn't that about a 3-hour movie? Adding another half hour isn't going to drastically change everything, is it?
Well, adding another half an hour of rubbish to a rubbish film, just, dog poo is dog poo, regardless of whether you put sprinkles on it.
Yeah, very true. I mean, do you know what I want to see more of in that film? I want to see more of Wonder Woman, and I want to see more of the Batman fighting stuff, and I want to see Superman smile.
And I want to see less of Amy Adams.
Yeah, less of Amy Adams, and I want to see Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor make any kind of sense.
Or maybe even die.
Yeah, that would be just as good, being honest.
And finally, in this week's superhero news, now, I read this story, right, and I scratched my head, because the first thing that came to mind was why. And hopefully, Dave, you will understand why I say that when I read it.
Okay.
Now, apparently, the University of Leicester, right, they have concluded a 7-year study. 7 years, right? That's the same age as my middle child. So in all the time that Megan has been alive, they've been doing this study into which superhero is the best.
Okay, I'm not quite sure why they need that. They could just get opinions from about 100 comic book fans and take the most popular. But yeah, go on.
Now, they used simple equations, and from these equations they determined that Superman is the best equipped superhero. Among the criteria used were energy output, ability to fly, the need to absorb power to maintain their abilities, super healing, and increased metabolism. These were weighed up against detrimental factors such as shoe leather use, such as the Flash, because obviously he runs a lot, so he apparently uses a lot of shoe leather. Carcinogenic traits, The tensile strength of spider silk and terminal velocity.
What the hell kind of study is this?
Too much
Seriously?
time on their hands.
You know what? This is just completely lame. I mean, do these guys even know comic books?
Well, the study did not include the likes of Jean Grey, Aquaman, Cable, Doctor Strange, and Shazam.
Sounds a bit biased to me, don't you think?
And this is the kicker, right? This is the... You'll want to go to the University of Leicester and punch someone when I tell you this. The most ill-equipped hero, apparently, is Batman.
Oh, we all know that.
Yeah.
We all know Batman's most ill-equipped hero.
He would apparently struggle to survive a landing after gliding due to the velocity of his movement.
You know what? Do you know there's one thing they haven't taken into account?
What's that?
He's Batman. I mean, he's Batman. You know what? Do you know what I'd say to... If you're rating these guys on energy output, Franklin Richards, you can change the whole of reality. So, if you're going by heroes, surely that's the way you go.
Well, all I can say is apparently Superman's the best and Batman's the worst.
That's just lame. It's not right.
Yeah, so well done, University of Leicester, for wasting... Would the taxpayers fund these studies?
I think the taxpayers might fund some of that study, yes.
Yeah, so thank you for wasting taxpayers' money on that absolute dross.
You know what? I have a news item which I'm not sure you've mentioned yet, which I think your opinion would be quite cool.
Is this superhero news or normal vanilla movie news?
This is superhero news.
Fire away.
Okay, I think it was last week I read this, and I read something this week which confirmed it. The next Thor movie, Thor Ragnarok, will apparently be partially telling the Planet Hulk storyline from the comic books. How do you feel about that?
What you talking about, Willis?
What do I talk about? The Planet Hulk.
I know what Planet Hulk is, but how can you do that in a... Like, Thor Ragnarok, right?
Right.
Is a massive deal on its own, right?
Right.
Okay. Planet Hulk is a huge deal on its own, okay, and has to tie in with World War Hulk because that's a huge deal on its own and was a consequence of actions before Civil War, correct?
Very true.
Right. So how can you have two massive deals like that in one 2.5 hour long film and do both bits justice?
You know, that is very true. That's kind of how I felt initially as well. But I'm kind of thinking, probably the reason they haven't got Hulk in Civil War and everything like that is probably, I'm thinking Hulk's been kidnapped from Earth by Thanos or something like that to get him out of the rail, right? And maybe he's had his head warped or something as well. But also I'm thinking, well, I don't think we're ever going to get the Planet Hulk movie that we really want.
Well, there is an animated version.
There is an animated version. I think that's probably the best version we're going to get. Because, for all sorts of reasons, number one, I love the Hulk, but his own movies just don't do too well, do they? Let's be honest.
I quite enjoyed The Incredible Hulk, to be fair.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, but box office wise, it wasn't the biggest success, was it? But also, there's some rights issues with the Hulk movies, aren't there? So
yeah, he's allowed to be in an ensemble film, but not a film on his own.
Exactly. So, because of all the rights issues, I don't think we're going to get the Planet Hulk movie that we really want. So I think we're going to put a little bit of Planet Hulk into Thor Ragnarok to have the Hulk in it as well. And then maybe part of Avengers 3 will be World War Hulk, be Hulk coming back to Earth under the influence of Thanos or something like that. I don't know.
I can't see it working, but then again, this is Marvel and Disney, and they are consistently proving me wrong.
Very true. You know, I hope they do it justice. That's all I can say. Just because that is a bold idea, is to put that epic Hulk story into Thor. So we'll see how it works out.
And that was this week's superhero news. Now, we do have a brand new top 10 coming up shortly, but before that, we've had the news that is super powered. So let's have let's have the news that is slightly more vanilla as we go for the standard movie news.
From the furthest reaches of the Geek universe, it's the world of Stew News.
Now, Dave, quick question for you. Have you ever heard of the movie Misconduct?
Misconduct. I believe I have. That sounds familiar.
Right, well, it stars Al Pacino and Anthony Hopkins, and is the directorial debut of Shintaro Shimozawa, which is actually quite impressive because normally I pronounce these names terribly, who has previously produced both The Grudge and Grudge 2, as in the original J-horror versions. So, it sounds like it could be quite good, yeah?
Okay, yeah, I mean, Oscar winners, Al Pacino, Anthony Hopkins. He's got a previous record of, producing okay films, okay, bring it on, could be alright.
Well, this film was initially released in the US in February, and it took, in its entire run at the box office, $24,000.
$24,000, seriously?
It gets better, though, because it opened in this country, and the fact that you probably haven't heard of it is because it only opened in 5 cinemas.
Okay, limited opening.
Right.
Across
those 5 cinemas, right, it took, over its opening weekend, so Friday, Saturday and Sunday, so 3 days, across 5 cinemas, total, right, £97.24.
Youch.
Yeah.
£97.27.
24 pence, Dave. You're giving it 3 pence too much credit there.
Oh, okay.
Right. Now, if you work out roughly £7 per ticket, say, for argument's sake, right?
Hey, if this is screens in London, I think that's very cheap for London.
Okay, but just for the purposes of simple mathematics, right? If you work it out, £7 per ticket, that would be 14 viewers total, right? For the entire weekend across those 5 cinemas, which would work out to be 1 person per cinema per day. Not per screening, per cinema per day.
That's pretty awful, isn't it?
However, right, when it was shown in South Korea, it took $900,000.
Hey, that's not too bad, is it? South Korea?
It did, however, cost $11 million to make.
Okay, yeah, maybe that's not making its money back, is it?
So the question is, what the hell happened to Al Pacino?
You know what? Sometimes you just choose the wrong project, don't you?
I think you should make that plural, Dave. Projects. I mean, this is the dude that was in Jack and Jill.
Very true.
And several other god-awful films in the last 5 to 10 years.
Do you know what I'm wondering now? What's its rating on Rotten Tomatoes? What kind of rating has that movie got?
I have no idea, but speaking of ratings of movies on Rotten Tomatoes, keep that thought, because we will be coming to that very shortly.
Okay.
Right, now, Warcraft. Have you ever played Warcraft?
I've never played Warcraft. I've seen people play it. It's just not something I've ever gone into or actually had the time to get into either.
Well, I've never played it because it's never really appealed to me, and I know that what I'm about to say or offend anyone who has played Warcraft, and I am doing it slightly in jest, but my troll takes your wizard down the yellow path of doom to the castle of Ragnar Bosharuni, something or other.
I think you just offended, Lord of the Rings fans and Warcraft fans all at once.
Oh, they're pretty much the same thing, aren't they? Let's be honest. But yep. I will admit that seeing the trailers for the film, I wouldn't mind watching it. It doesn't look terrible to me.
Yeah, it does look terrible. It does kind of look standard fantasy fare to me. It's not the kind of thing I'm thinking, oh yeah, I've got to go see it. But it kind of, that looks okay. It looks like it's probably well made, at least.
Well, it actually smashed it in its first 2 days of release in China, taking $90 million at the box office.
Whoa, that is impressive.
And today it has taken a worldwide total of $170 million, and that was before its US release this previous weekend just gone.
Oh, that feels like success to me. That sounds like success.
Now, and I'm loath to do this, but it's more Ghostbusters stories.
Ooh, who are you going to call?
Yeah, not Melissa McCarthy, that's for certain. But I don't know if you remember when we were talking about the plot last week, I mentioned that June the 8th was Ghostbusters Day.
You did, yes.
And what it was Jimmy Kimmel was doing a special show where he had the new Ghostbusters and the original cast all together on stage. Now, have you seen the video of this?
I haven't. I've been trying to avoid kind of them on talk shows because I just know someone's going to ask them these questions on the talk show about, tell us about, all the hate and all the sexism, and they're going to talk about it. I'm going to be like, yeah, it's not about that. It's because you made an awful film.
So, anyway, they showed an extended clip of the part of the trailer where Leslie Jones's character, Patty, pulls up in the hearse and says, here's the new car, okay?
Okay.
And after that, they cut back to the 8 of them. So the original, the new Ghostbusters, with Ernie Hudson, Dan Aykroyd, Annie Potts, and Bill Murray sat behind them. And Bill, you have to watch the video to do it justice. But Bill Murray's face, when they cut back, looks like, what the hell am I doing here? Right? Okay, then they go on to Jimmy Kimmel then asks Bill Murray a question, and Bill Murray responds as follows, right? When you see the film and you're delighting the film, it sort of rumbles along in the beginning. You're like, oh God, are they going to pull this thing off? I felt like a stepfather to the whole thing. There is no quitting these girls. This is a tough movie to pull off because it's a big concept. There's a lot on the plate. There's a lot of expectation. Not the most glowing of reports there, really, is it?
Yeah, that's not sitting there and going, oh, you've got to see this, it's an amazing film. That's, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like Dan Aykroyd when he went out and went, oh my God, it's funnier than the first two films put together, it's scarier than the first two films, you must go and watch it, oh, and while you're there, buy some of my Skull vodka.
Yeah, no, that's not the same thing, is it? That's, Dan Aykroyd does vodka?
He does, yeah, it comes in a big transparent glass skull.
Okay, I'm going to have to see if I can find one of them. That sounds cool.
I don't know what it's called, but he needs the money, let's be honest. Bill Murray was then also asked why he finally agreed to be in the film, to which he replied, I thought about it for a very long time, like many, many months. No, that's not right. I was seriously thinking about this for years, really. It kept eating at me, and I really respect these girls. And I started to feel like if I didn't do the movie, maybe someone would write a bad review or something, thinking there was some sort of disapproval on my part. So what he's basically saying there is he agreed to be in the film because he didn't want his refusal to be in the film to be seen as him saying the film was going to be crap.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of fair enough. That's kind of that does make it sound like he's doing them a favour, though.
Funnily enough, they didn't mention the fact that Sony blackmailed him into being in the film in the first place.
Oh yes, didn't we do that? Didn't we talk about that a long time ago, about how they blackmailed him to be in the film?
Yeah, it was all part of the Sony email hacks, wasn't it?
Yes, sounds like it. Yeah, I think so.
But needless to say, having watched the video, I'm still not going to go and watch it.
Do you know what? I might take one for the team.
Don't do it, Dave.
Yeah, but I just feel that I feel like I dislike this film so much. I feel like I dislike the idea of this film and everything about this film so much that I need to watch it and give it an honest review.
I think I will probably try and see it through some sort of means, if you get my drift.
I do get your drift. But yeah, I feel like I might have to take one for the team and go watch it, take one of the kids, whatever, because sadly both of the children have said they don't want to see Independence Day with me, and I'm like, what? But I guess that's a generational thing.
Funny you should bring Independence Day up, Dave, because Roland Emmerich has revealed that his original plan for an Independence Day sequel was that it would be based around peace.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
The plot would have seen humans accidentally shoot down an alien ship, and at the end of the film, the aliens land on the White House lawn and say, "We come in peace." I don't know why I put on that voice. I'm thinking of like Mars Attacks or something. That wasn't really Mars Attacks. Anyway, Emmerich said that it didn't go very far because it just didn't work.
Okay, I think I'm actually one of the only people, though, who sometimes when I see a film, I think, actually, what would have been more interesting is what happens after this or what happened before this. I remember watching, that movie, what's it called, 2012, the year where volcanoes go off and the whole... The Day After Tomorrow, that's the one.
The one with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, where everything freezes and everyone from America has to seek refuge in Mexico, which, would drive Donald Trump absolutely nuts.
They'd have to climb over the wall if Trump became prez.
Oh, yeah, they'd have to climb over that wall somehow, wouldn't they? I think what would be really interesting is the sequel to that film, where the whole power dynamics of the Earth has changed, where you've got billions of people from, say, Europe moving down into Africa and millions of people from America moving down into South America, and then you've got all these poor countries in South America and Africa saying, well, what are we supposed to do? We haven't got houses for you, we can't just give you food. But then you've got America going, yeah, we've got nuclear submarines, so you'll give us what we want, cough up. So sometimes I just think the film about the peace, or a fight for peace, could be just as interesting, Sometimes it's what you don't see, I think, that could be more interesting. So that sounds like it would have been a more intelligent film. But obviously we're going to get a giant spaceship invading Earth again.
Yes. Now, live update, Dave. How exciting is this? Because while we've been talking, I've just looked it up. Warcraft took a fairly unimpressive 24 million in its opening weekend in the States.
That's surprising, because I thought there'd be more fans of it in the States.
But it has, to date, smashed it with 280,500,000 worldwide.
And do we know how much its budget was?
Oh, I would imagine, not off the top of my head, but I would imagine it's probably something like $160 million.
Okay, so you know what? If this one is it's called Warcraft: The Beginning, isn't it?
Yes, I believe so. It's definitely going to get a sequel.
Yeah, I would have thought so, definitely.
Moving on, our favourite, how can I put it, cult director who has gone on to be quite possibly one of the worst directors who ever lived, Kevin Smith.
Oh yes, what's he been up to?
Well, I don't know if you remember, a while back we talked about the fact that he was doing a sequel to Mallrats that was going to be called Mallbrats.
Yes.
Well, he's dropped that idea now. Instead, he is going to do a Mallrats TV series in 10 parts.
Okay, so someone's obviously told him that his really bad idea could be turned into an even worse idea.
Yeah, rumour has it that this may be because of a lack of interest in Mallrats from financiers. This could be down to the fact that his latest movie, Yoga Hosers, which is the second part of his Canadian or North trilogy or something, whatever he's calling it, following on from Tusk. Have you seen that yet?
No, I haven't seen that.
You really need to watch that, and then we need to have a discussion about it. It's basically been getting crucified by reviewers, and remember earlier I said we were going to talk about Rotten Tomatoes?
Yes.
This is the film, 25%.
25%, that's pretty low.
Yeah. Kevin Smith, and I've watched the trailer for it now. I suggest you look up the trailer for Yoga Hosers and then come back to me by text or whatever and just give me your one-word review of it. And if it's anything other than crap, I will be very surprised.
Okay, right.
It stars his daughter, Harley Quinn Smith, and Johnny Depp's daughter, whose name escapes me at the moment, but it's Depp. Something Depp, obviously. And from what I've seen, there's this one scene where they've got like this little sausage-type character, like who's small enough to sit in the palm of their hands, dressed in a Mountie outfit.
What?
Yeah, and I have no idea what it's supposed to be about. Apparently it's supposed to feature Canadian Nazis as well.
Sounds like kind of the worst weird-ass Canadian David Lynch movie.
seriously, since he did Red State, Kevin Smith has gone downhill.
Is he? I don't know. Is he just smoking too much? What's going on?
I don't know. Apparently, he wanted to do the TV series after directing an episode of The Flash.
Ah, right, okay, so he's had a taste of the TV world, that's what it's about.
Yeah, so let's hope he doesn't balls up TV like he has films. And finally, in this week's movie news, apparently, writer Randall Wallace is considering a potential sequel to 2004's The Passion of the Christ.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah. Mel Gibson has talked about it before. He's not actually officially on board yet, but Wallace has stated that he would like to tell the story of Jesus' resurrection.
You know what? I watched The Passion of the Christ. It was a visually amazing film. If you're a strict believer in that kind of thing, I could see how you would be quite touched and moved by that film because, I mean, let's be honest, in terms of violence, it's an exceptionally violent film. It's visceral. It's visually a very good film. I think Mel Gibson is actually a really good director. I still don't think it's actually Mel Gibson's best film. But, yeah, let's be honest, if they make this film about resurrection, it's going to be a giant success. It'll make a lot of money. But will it be any good, is the question.
If they're going to do it about his resurrection, and I don't really know anything about religion at all whatsoever, but that's around the whole Easter time, yeah? Is that
yeah,
right?
That's right.
Well, they should have the Easter Bunny in it then I might go and watch it.
You know, that might offend a few people, if I'm being honest, if you kind of like have Jesus reappear in a giant bunny costume.
Or Jesus versus the Easter Bunny.
Ooh, no, now we're going into Celebrity Deathmatch.
Yeah, I always tell my kids that his name's Jeebus after the episode of The Simpsons where Homer becomes a... what's the word I'm looking for? You know, where people go to other countries and help people out.
Oh, yes, the word has just escaped my head.
Yeah, well, he becomes one of those anyway. So, yeah. And in closing on this week's movie news, I've just quickly looked it up, and Warcraft, and how cool am I, cost $160 million.
160 million? Okay, so it's made a fair bit back already, you know, for the first Warcraft movie. It's made a fair amount of money for a first movie.
From the furthest reaches of the Geek universe, it's the World of Stew News.
So that was this week's vanilla movie news. Now, Dave, obviously you're an Xbox guy.
I am.
And you play video games. You like me, you play video games, but you wouldn't necessarily consider yourself a big gamer.
That's right. I mean, strictly speaking, it's just a matter of time these days. I mean, who wouldn't love... I'd love to spend many more hours playing video games. I know there's loads of great video games out there, but, you know, I've got 2 jobs. I've got 2 kids. The time just isn't there these days.
So have you seen any of the announcements at E3, which has just been happening?
I have. The kids told me about some of these announcements this morning as well, actually.
Yeah, so on the Microsoft side, they are releasing an Xbox One Slim, an Xbox One S. I guess these are like the old Xbox 360 arcade and things like that.
Yeah, I think they're just going to be different versions, aren't they? They're going to be powered up a bit, and isn't one of them going to have virtual reality capability?
I think that's going to be the Project Scorpio console, which is going to be true 4K gaming for anyone who can afford a 4K TV.
Yeah, give it a couple of years, though. A lot of us will have 4K TVs already, won't we?
Right, and we'll come back to the virtual reality thing in a minute, right? They also announced that there will be Gears of War 4, Final Fantasy 15, Dead Rising 4, Halo Wars 2, Tekken 7, and most interestingly, something called Xbox Play, where you buy an Xbox One game and you get to play it for free on your PC.
Okay, interesting. How's that going to work?
I guess you just get some sort of download code or something. I don't know. I've never played games on a PC because I've never had a computer that's fast enough to do it.
Yeah, likewise. That's why I've got a console. You know, it's I don't have to fuss with any of this, making sure you've got the right graphics card or the right sound card or any of this kind of stuff. You're like, okay, if I buy that game, it's gonna work in my console. Yeah, okay.
I think we've just lost some of our geek prowess. On the Sony side, they announced that there will be the PlayStation Virtual Reality, which is going to rocket in at $399 and come separately to their PlayStation Neo, which is going to be their upgraded PlayStation 4 for the 4K gaming. So if you work it out at, say, $300+ for the PlayStation Neo, plus the PlayStation VR, you're looking at nearly $800.
So plus a game or two as well. That's probably going to be around 900.
Yeah,
that's a fair price tag, isn't it?
They also announced God of War, Resident Evil 7, Call of Duty, Spider-Man, Crash Bandicoot is coming back, as well as the virtual reality games of Batman Arkham, where you get to be Batman through the virtual reality set, and Star Wars Battlefront X-Wing VR missions. Virtual reality. Surely it's just a fad.
You know what? I think I'm going to go out on a limb here and say 20 years ago when me and you were kids, it was a fad. People tried it, it didn't work, it was too expensive, it was too clunky. But I think now we've got the technology to make it work.
Yeah, but we got the technology for 3D TV, Dave, and that died on its arse again.
Yeah, it did, and you know what? I think that's still because people aren't filming stuff in 3D. But virtual reality, I think people put the development into these games. There's no reason why it can't work. As long as I've still got a pad in my hand to play the game, I think it'll be really kick-ass.
Plus, it's not very sociable, is it?
It's not very sociable, but you look at this aspect of it, and you can wear the virtual reality headset. You can have the headset that allows you to talk to people in the game. It can still be sociable. It can still be a sociable part.
Yeah, but not with other people in your house.
Not with other people in your house, no. But
so, like for instance, you with your two boys, right? You can't sit there and play a virtual reality game together unless you've got 3 headsets. And I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure if that would work.
That won't work because we're not going to buy 3 virtual reality headsets. But the fact remains, I'm a bit of a how am I going to say it? I'm a bit of a proponent for this kind of thing because I know there are people across the country and across the world who, let's say they're on the autistic spectrum somewhere and they have problems talking to people. It's difficult for them. They have problems talking to people. They don't like it. But the world of technology is like, it just works for them. And that's one of the ways they have to socialise with people. They put on the headset, they talk to people, and it's one of the few ways that they can escape the pressures of the world, put it that way. So, you know what? If you're just a teenager and you're playing this for 8 hours a day and you're not talking to anyone, go out, play football, do something, climb a tree, whatever. But there are people who do need this, and I think it can work as well.
Well, we will wait and see, but I'm predicting that it will just be a fad. Moving swiftly on, as I tend to say multiple times every week, it is time for this week's Top 10.
There's something curious about this broadcast.
So Dave, this week we have the top 10 classic movies with horrible, pointless reboots.
Okay, there could be a lot of these.
Yeah, well there are a lot, but just for the purposes of this list, these are the 10 that I have picked out. So, in at number 10 we have Arthur. In 1981, Steve Gordon directed his one and only movie in the shape of the Dudley Moore starring Arthur. Moore played the eponymous Arthur, who is a drunk. He's also the heir to a vast fortune, which he can only get if he marries a woman that he doesn't love. He proposes to this woman, but he then falls in love with a woman named Linda who has no money. The movie also starred Liza Minnelli and John Gielgud, who won an Oscar for his performance in the film. 30 years later, Jason Weiner directed his first feature film, which starred Russell Brand as Arthur. Need I say any more?
No, this was one film I refused to watch, actually, because I actually really liked the Dudley Moore version when I was a kid, and yeah, I just thought, Russell Brand, no, I'm not watching it.
In at number 9, The Pink Panther. It's another classic comedy, this time from 1963, a film that cemented the legend that is Peter Sellers as a true comedy great. Sellers plays bumbling French detective Jacques Clouseau, who is trying to track down the notorious thief, the Phantom. The film was directed by Blake Edwards, who also helmed the likes of Breakfast at Tiffany, as well as all of the Pink Panther sequels. Alongside Sellers, the film featured the likes of David Niven, John Le Mesurier, and Robert Wagner. It would take 43 years before anyone dared to try and remake The Pink Panther, although technically not, because the last film in the original series was 1993's Son of the Pink Panther, which wasn't very good. Anyway, Sean Levy directed. He was best known for the Night at the Museum series, and on paper a cast including Jean Reno, Kevin Kline and Steve Martin should have been able to deliver, right?
Right, I mean, that's a good cast.
Unfortunately, in 2006, Steve Martin was basically a million miles away from his heyday, which included the likes of The Jerk and The Man with the Two Brains. Here, in the Pink Panther remake, for my money, he is nothing more than an embarrassment as Clouseau.
I'd kind of just say it as well. I mean, Steve Martin should surely be a fan of the originals. And what kind of comedian would go anywhere near this?
Well,
what comedian would want the role of Clouseau?
Depends on if that comedian needs a paycheck. Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Sticking with France, in at number 8 we have Taxi. Now, have you ever seen the original of these?
A very long time ago. I really enjoyed them, actually. Yeah. I thought they were, pretty cool films.
Sticking with comedy again, though this time it's more action-based, we have the 1998 French film Taxi. French director Gérard Perez is in the hot seat for this movie that tells the tale of a taxi driver, Daniel, who has tricked out his cab, making it more like a racing car with all sorts of crazy-ass gizmos and gadgets on it. He basically finds himself having to chauffeur a police inspector around in the pursuit of a gang of German bank robbers. The film itself spawned 3 sequels of decreasing quality. I think the last one was in the Alps or something, wasn't it? I have watched the film, I just remember the shot in the poster of the car on skis.
Yeah, I don't think I watched that one, actually. I think I watched probably the first 2, but I don't think I watched that one.
Anyway, in 2004, Tim Story, who also directed the 2 original Fantastic Four films from the early 2000s, he brought his vision of the Taxi story together with Queen Latifah and Jimmy Fallon in the lead roles.
Just wrong. I mean, Queen Latifah and Jimmy Fallon. Has there ever been a good film with Jimmy Fallon in it?
This reboot took all the fun and adventure out of the original, which was obvious as soon as the casting was announced.
Yeah, like I said.
In at number 7, we have Clash of the Titans. Now, take a movie adaptation of the myth of Perseus and his battles against Medusa and the Kraken. Fill the cast with the likes of Laurence Olivier, Maggie Smith, Ursula Andress and Burgess Meredith, the Penguin, and you get a film that is beloved by many. Move forward 29 years from the film's 1981 release and hand the reboot over to the director of The Transporter, Louis Lettner. And what do you get? You get 2010's horrible remake. Again, on paper, Dave, this movie probably should have worked better than it did because it features Liam Neeson, Mads Mikkelsen and Ralph Fiennes.
Yeah, I mean, again, great cast. Liam Neeson, Ralph Fiennes. That should work, surely.
However, it's nothing more than a CGI-heavy abomination that should never have seen the light of day.
You know what made me laugh about this film? I remember it came out the same year as Percy Jackson. Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, which obviously deals with the Greek mythology as well.
Yeah.
And I remember Ralph Fiennes plays Hades, right? The god of the underworld. And just a couple of weeks later, I watched Percy Jackson, where who plays Hades, god of the underworld? Steve Coogan. I just thought Steve Coogan's version of Hades was just so much better. It was like some kind of he was like some kind of rock star who was way behind his best years and who was just desperate and sad. But Steve Coogan's version was just so much better.
In at number 6 we have Planet of the Apes. Now it may be almost 50 years since Charlton Heston damned those stinky apes, but the film has, without doubt, from my opinion anyway, stood the test of time and is as impactful today as it was in 1968. Agree? Disagree?
Agree, I'd agree there.
Yeah. Yes, the makeup may seem a little dated, but it was impactful in its day. The film spawned 4 sequels, which filled in the backstory leading to the shocking end of the original Planet of the Apes, all of which I am an Apes fan. I love all of the original 5 films. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think they get a little bit
hokey,
stretched out towards the end, a little bit overbearing towards the end. But yeah, certainly the first few are really good. But I do also like the fact that some of them are very different. So Battle of the Planet of the Apes is very different from the first Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. Now, of course, we would get a great remake in the form of 2011's Rise of the Planet of the Apes. 10 years before that, Tim Burton, who at the time was coming off of Sleepy Hollow, and Mars Attacks, probably seemed like a good person to direct the film and relaunch the Planet of the Apes franchise. Alas, it was not meant to be, as lead actor Mark Wahlberg hammed it up spectacularly, and the Apes' makeup was pretty laughable. As for the new twist ending, well, I actually didn't mind it. I thought it was a brave attempt, and I would have been interested to see what they were going to do with the sequel, but that never happened because Burton's film tanked.
It did. There are just so many bad parts of that film, it's just not worth mentioning.
Did you like the ending, though? I thought it was a clever twist.
It was clever in the fact that most people would watch it and think, what the hell, how does that make sense? But it does make sense if you think about it enough. So, yeah, it was okay, but it didn't make me think, oh my god, I really want to see another film.
In at number 5 we have RoboCop. In 1987, Paul Verhoeven was a bit of an unknown entity, really, outside of his native Holland. That would all change with RoboCop, which, as well as being a hell of a film, it was also a metaphor for the story of Jesus.
The story of Jesus?
Yeah, Paul Verhoeven has confirmed this himself, that RoboCop is a cyborg analogy of Jesus.
Okay, I never realised that. I might have to watch it again and think about that.
Yeah. Peter Weller plays Officer Alex Murphy, who is left for dead by a gang but is saved only to be brought back as a cyborg officer whose mission is to rid the streets of Detroit of crime. This film has some genuinely hard-hitting and difficult-to-watch scenes. Would you concur with that?
I'd agree there. My wife still finds it very difficult to watch. Well, she wouldn't watch it if it was on, full stop.
Particularly the acid death scene towards the end.
Yeah, the acid death scene and the scene where Alex Murphy is attacked, that is particularly violent. But also, I think it has a lot of relevant ideas as well. It has a lot of social critique in there, amongst its violence and its sense of fun. It's got a lot of social critique that is still relevant today. Well,
2014 Day brought us Jose Padilla's RoboCop reboot, which starred Joel Kinnaman, and I'm really upset that he was in this film because I think he's quite a good actor. In the lead role with Gary Oldman and Michael Keaton also featuring. For me, in this film, Keaton chews the scenery and doesn't show any sign of the career resurgence that would come in Birdman.
And Gary Oldman also, I think, he puts in a half-decent performance, but he's capable of so much better.
As for the film, its 12A certification compared to the original's 18 should be enough to figure out just where it went wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the social critique as well is just not really there. You get a little bit of stuff about drones in war and privatisation, but it's not a patch on the original.
Which brings us to number 4. And number 4 on our classic movies that had horrible remakes, or reboots, is Psycho. Now, Alfred Hitchcock is one of the greatest movie makers of all time. I don't think anyone would argue with that, would they?
I certainly wouldn't.
No. And his body of work consists of multiple classics. Foremost amongst them is 1963's Psycho, which starred Anthony Perkins in the career-defining role of hotel owner from Hell, Norman Bates. The film also starred Janet Leigh as Marion Crane and is considered one of the great untouchable movies that nobody would ever dare to remake, would they, Dave? Surely not.
Oh, no. I mean, why would you remake such a classic that's still such a good movie today?
Well, it didn't bloody stop Gus Van Sant, did it? In 1998, he did the unthinkable and brought us his vision of the classic, which was basically nothing more than a direct shot-for-shot remake. In fact, the only real difference was that it was in colour and that Vince Vaughn, that's right, Vince Vaughn, of all people, was cast in the lead role.
Again, that makes no sense. The original actor for Norman Bates was, a little bit creepy, but Vince Vaughn, my wife looks at him and goes, oh yeah, nice handsome guy, really nice guy, so nice handsome funny guy. And why a shot-for-shot remake? I understand it if you're going to try and give it a little bit of your own vision, but this makes no sense.
And do you know what makes it worse?
What's that?
1 year earlier, Gus Van Sant had directed Good Will Hunting.
Exactly, but as it turns out, it seems that Ben Affleck might have had a bit of credit for that.
And Gus Van Sant would also go on to make the excellent Elephant.
I can't remember if I've seen that.
That's sort of like the school-based shooting thing, sort of loosely based around Columbine.
Oh yes, I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah. Number 3 on our top 10 classic movies that have had horrible reboots, and I made reference to it earlier, it is Old Boy. Now, the early 20th century was a boom period for Asian cinema. There were many fantastic J-horror films, and a lot of them actually have been subjected to horrible remakes, such as Ringu, which became The Ring, which the Hollywood version was rubbish. We had Dark Water, where the Hollywood version was rubbish, and The Grudge, where the Hollywood version was rubbish. Over in Korea, Chan-wook Park was making a name for himself with 2002's Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. And the following year, in 2003, he released the second of his Vengeance trilogy, Old Boy. Now, the movie starred legendary actor Min-sik Choi and is not only brilliantly shot and beautiful to behold, but also, for my money, Dave, has one of the most shocking and unforgettable twist endings in the history of cinema.
Oh, it's not an ending you forget, is it?
No. If you jump forward 10 years, Spike Lee. Who the hell thought that Spike Lee should go any... Well, first of all, there should never have been an Old Boy remake. Agree?
Agree.
But if they're going to make one, why in God's name would you give it to Spike Lee?
Well, again, Spike Lee's a decent filmmaker. He should really know better. It's just there's no better way of saying it than that. Spike Lee can make decent films. He doesn't need to get a film like Old Boy and mutilate it.
Well, anyway, his version, which is basically, as you said, a mutilation of the original, tells much the same story, with Josh Brolin, for my money, being the only shining light in what comes across as nothing more than a pointless exercise, especially when you consider the fact that Hollywood was never ever going to recreate the original ending.
Yeah, which is just a crime, because just keep the original ending and stay true to source material. That's all I can say.
The only way the Old Boy remake could have been worse is if they'd actually gone with Robert De Niro like they were planning to.
Yeah, though even then it might have been well acted.
Yeah, but anyway, moving on, we have number 2, which is one of my favourite films of all time, as in the original, The Evil Dead. Now, not only is The Evil Dead one of the greatest horror movies of all time, but it also launched the careers of the likes of Rob Tappert, Greg Nicotero, and of course Sam Raimi. And let's not forget, Dave, it brought us the greatest actor of his generation.
Of any generation, surely.
Yeah, Bruce Lorne Campbell. The film spawned 2 equally beloved sequels, which were followed by years of fans clamouring for Campbell to return for another go-round as Ashley J. Williams. What we actually got in 2013 was a reboot directed by Fede Alvarez, who was making his feature film debut. Now, the new movie starred a collection of disposable young actors, and I bet you couldn't name one.
No, I couldn't, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. That you've never heard of before, and it recreates all the iconic scenes just with extra gore, and it is basically an by the numbers 21st century horror movie.
It is, and this is the biggest shame of that, because The Evil Dead was so awesome for the time, and this remake comes out, and it's just so average. There's nothing good, there's nothing special about it.
Do you know what was the worst part of the remake for me?
What was that?
Was the way that they paid lip service to fans of the original with the post-credit scene.
I don't think I even stayed to watch. I didn't see the post-credit scene.
Right,
What was
at the end of the credits, it rolls through to the end of the credits, and then there's Bruce Campbell stood there, dressed up like Ash, and he just says, groovy, and it goes to black, and that's it. Which to me was a big F you. It was like them going, you wanted Bruce Campbell? Here he is now, F you and go away.
Yeah, you're right, and they haven't made a sequel to this one, have they?
They haven't, no. Although thankfully Ash has returned in the immense Ash vs Evil Dead.
Which I still have to watch the rest of that. I've watched the first episode, I need to watch the rest of the series.
It's absolute blooming genius. All of which brings us to our number one classic movie that has had a horrible remake. And can you guess what it is, Dave? It's the most obvious film probably of all time.
Let's see. Film that was remade. That was awful. Hang on. It couldn't be Rocky Horror Picture Show yet, could it?
No.
It couldn't be Blues Brothers, could it?
No, because that wasn't technically a reboot, was it?
Okay, that wasn't technically a remake, was it? Okay, no, my mind's gone blank.
It is The Wicker Man.
Of course.
Yes, it is, of course, the most obvious cliche choice for top spot, but when a reboot is as bad as this one, it has to be considered the worst. Edward Woodward and Christopher Lee both star in Robin Hardy's 1973 low-budget horror, which starts off as a standard missing girl story, but quickly devolves into pagan rituals and sacrifices. Hardy himself would return with The Wicker Tree in 2011. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't. I've never seen that one.
No, I haven't seen it either. But don't worry if you've never heard of it, because most haven't, as it came out under the radar to almost no fanfare. 5 years before that, in 2006, Neil LaBute directed the Nicolas Cage starring Reboot, which has gone down in infamy as one of the most ridiculously bad movies of all time, let alone one of the worst remakes. It came out in the midst of a period during which the world came to realise just how bad an actor Nicolas Cage is, as his next few movies included Ghost Rider, Next, Bangkok Dangerously, which is another remake, Knowing, Bad Lieutenant, another remake, Season of the Witch, and Drive Angry.
I'm struggling to name a single decent movie among that lot.
There isn't one. Even Ghost Rider is terrible.
Yeah, even Ghost Rider. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it at the time, but it seriously needs a new Ghost Rider. I'm waiting for a TV series.
Now, not only is it a mystery as to why anyone thought this reboot would be a good idea, but how the hell Cage still gets work is one of the greatest unsolved Hollywood questions that remains unanswered.
I just can't explain it, because I thought at one point he's done the occasional film where he's a decent actor, and I fail to understand how he's been such a bad actor for so long. I mean, he's got an Oscar, for goodness sake.
Probably the worst actor in history to have an Oscar.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there.
So that was this week's Top 10. We are coming towards the end of another episode of World of Stew, which means it must be time for this. This Week of Geek. This Geeky Week. This Week of Geek. This Week of Geek. Yes, indeed. Here we are with Dave and your Week of Geek.
Okay, I'm going to go for the bad first. You said we'd discuss it when I had watched it, and I finally found time to sit down with the kids and watch the final episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right. Before you go into the main story, did that or did that not just feel like the Matrix in the middle of it?
It did, and it felt Matrixy, it felt pointless, and it felt, what are you doing? You've waited 4 series to have 2 superpowered beings fight each other, and this is what you're doing? It was just bad. Even the reason why they're fighting is like Daisy goes back to Hive. Spoilers, by the way, people. I'm sure you've already watched it if you care about it. But she goes back to Hive, like, take me back, I want you to take me back. And he's like, oh, no, I can't. Why am I whispering in this strange way now that I'm Hive?
I'm so over you, witch.
Yeah, and she's like, I'm going to use all my powers on you. And he's like, yeah, but you're only angry at him now because he can't take you back. Now you're pretending to be a good guy? What's going on with that? And it just had this little Matrixy fight. And there's even a point in it where Hive jumps over her or something, and I thought, like, I could think it as he was landing in slow motion. Thought, he's going to do a superhero landing. He's going to do a superhero landing for no reason whatsoever. And he does this little Matrixy superhero landing. Like, oh no, why? That bit makes no sense. And then obviously you get the token character death at the end of it. And I realised at the end of the episode, I thought, do you know what? I still like Hayden Coulson. I think he's a cool character. He's soft-spoken, but he's tough. He can kick ass. He knows his stuff. And I kind of like Fitz and Simmons, science guys. I don't care about anyone else. Sky's just a big pain in the ass. She has been for the whole series.
Daisy,
Sky, Daisy, whatever. Why would she change her name to Daisy? Because she didn't like her parents.
I'm a bit confused as well.
Okay, go ahead.
Because at the beginning of the last episode, it shows her in a box on the alien planet with Coulson, yeah?
Yeah.
But then that never happens?
No, I thought, was that supposed to be some kind of strange dream or something, or...?
Because I thought it was just part of her vision, because the rest of her vision comes true.
That's right.
So what's that all about?
Yeah, that was a weird kind of shoo-in, and towards the end as well, she's obviously gone a bit rogue at the end, and she's got the hair. What is going on with that? It's kind of got a big teaser for the next episode, next series, but none of it kind of makes any kind of sense. So, I don't know. Am I bothered about the next series? I'll probably watch it with the kids, but I don't know, man. It's kind of, I feel like it's a series that run its course.
I think the next series will be the last one as well, because it's been moved to the 10 o'clock death slot in America.
Well, I kind of hope so then. I hope they have one final series. Who knows, maybe they kill off half the characters. Do you know what I kind of want from S.H.I.E.L.D. actually? I want the S.H.I.E.L.D. of the comics. I want S.H.I.E.L.D. to be the big organisation again. Okay, now they've gotten rid of Hydra, they can be a big organisation with a helicarrier that fights for bad guys, that basically just clears up after the heroes.
And who's the new director?
The new director, that was curious, wasn't it?
I think it's going to be Maria Hill.
I think it could be Maria Hill, or it could be someone they'd mentioned in Civil War. Who knows?
Yeah, well, we'll wait and see, but I'll probably give it a couple of episodes in season 4 and then give up.
Yeah, definitely.
So what else was in your week of Geek?
Also, do you know what? I watched, Netflix came up with a whole bunch of new shows this week. One of which I tried a couple of them out. They had some conspiracy stuff. I watched this one thing, Conspiracy. Did we really land on the moon? What do you think? I watched it. Then I thought, oh, do you know what? This actually sounds quite cool. I'm going to research this myself. Had a look on YouTube, researched some anomalies in videos and photos of our supposed landing on the moon, and I came to this one strict conclusion.
Go on.
Mankind definitely did land on the moon.
Okay.
Okay. It's great to think of it as a conspiracy. I'm a conspiracy nut as well, but let's be honest, we went to the moon. We can get to space. As entertaining as the conspiracy videos are for this, we went to space. Once you've gotten into space, getting to the moon is really easy, okay? it's getting up out of Earth's atmosphere that's great. But it's a really great documentary to watch, conspiracy, and there's a couple of other great conspiracy videos about UFOs as well, and they're just kind of funny to watch, I have to say. They're pretty shockingly voiced over by Jonathan Frakes, who used to be in Star Trek, and it's just like, yeah, you just kind of need a job, don't you, mate?
So,
Okay.
Week of Geek Comics?
Briefly in comics, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Renato, a new series from Image Comics. And actually, do you know what? Image Comics, if I go back 15, 20 years, Image Comics, I was like, no, man, Image Comics, they're absolutely terrible. They just make really bad versions of Marvel characters. But you know what? These days, they do the really good creator-based projects. And Renato Jones, for 1%, is kind of an interesting take on a familiar character. He's very much like Batman. He's an orphaned millionaire, but the thing is, you realise very quickly in the first 2 issues, he's been taken in, but he's not the actual child of billionaires. He's been taken in and he's been trained by the butler to take out everyone else in the world who's really rich, basically. He's going to find these greedy, evil people who have trashed the economy, and he's going to make them pay. That's the idea for the comic, and it's violent, it's brutal, it's definitely not for children. It's worth picking up if you want to try something a bit different, maybe a version of Batman who's just more violent. A cross between Batman and Punisher, I guess.
And how many issues?
Fight Club as well.
How many issues is that out?
It's only had 2 issues out so far, so if it's not something that's going to be difficult to catch up with. It's not like you want to buy. Like you're on Batman number 500 or the X-Men number 320. You haven't got 30 years of history of this character. You've just got 2 months to just, why not give it a try? But in Marvel Comics, the big story in the last couple of weeks is obviously their Civil War 2 has started. And I finally read issue number 1, which, brief aside, my issue hasn't arrived yet. I ordered it legitimately. I bought it on the internet. I bought it from a reputed seller, but it's lost in the post. It's been lost in the post for the last 10 days, but they won't send me another copy until 14 days has passed. So what the hell, I read it on the internet somewhere on a website. What can I say? I paid for it, I bought it, I'm going to get it.
You don't need to justify it to me, mate.
Do I need to feel guilty about it? No, I still want that issue. I want it in my collection. But anyway, Civil War 2 number 1. The basic premise, as I might have said before, there's an inhuman, Ulysses, who can foretell the future. He gets these visions of the future. And very quickly, the issue starts out with a gigantic fight with a huge celestial, godlike Galactus-type figure who is invading Earth. And the Avengers have got together to stop him. Doctor Strange and some supernatural guys have got together to stop him. The Ultimates are there. Some of the X-Men are there. And, yeah, they stop him. They're like, okay, bingo, great. How did we do this? How did we know he was coming? And the Avengers get together like, okay, you stopped him because you've got someone who can tell the future. Everyone else is just like, okay, so... yeah, but this is a good thing, right? We can stop threats before they happen. Of course, Tony Stark is a bit more, oh, hang on, what about the probability ratio here? What happens when you predict them, but you predicted it, and it didn't happen, so what's going on there? We stopped it, so are you really predicting the future, or are you something else? Cutting to the chase, basically, later on in the issue, they try to stop something they predicted to happen. A major character dies as a consequence, because they tried to stop. Spoilers here, by the way, people. I'm sure you don't mind about spoilers too.
No, because I already know. But
yeah, they try and stop Thanos because they predicted where he is. War Machine, James Rhodes, dies as a consequence. She-Hulk is on her deathbed and she is presumably dying because she is flatlined. And this is where the difference between our superheroes is going to come. One group of superheroes want to keep Ulysses to predict and change the future. Tony Stark is clearly, this is too dangerous.
It's always Tony Stark. He needs to go and have a bottle of whiskey and chill out.
You know what I do like in this one issue actually, that he while the Avengers are having a meeting about this guy Ulysses, Captain America mentions something, and Tony turns around and says, "Hang on, Cap, are me and you going to have a morality debate about this, because we know that never ends well."
Which Captain America is that?
Yeah, that's Steve Rogers.
Alright, the Hydra agent.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of like a little... I guess that's just a little way of them kind of saying, okay, it's not going to be Tony and Steve being the major sides in Civil War. You know, we're not going to go over there. We've done that before. But yeah, Steve Rogers is suspiciously quiet throughout this whole issue. Considering he's supposed to be the figurehead. But I have to say, this issue, I would give it a good 4.5 stars out of 5. The art is just absolutely phenomenal from David Marquez. There's not a single character in this story who I would look at and go, you know what, they're not drawn well. Iron Man's drawn well. Captain Marvel is drawn well. The new character Ulysses is given a little bit of character. Spider-Man is awesome. It's just the whole issue is drawn phenomenally. Did I say that right? Phenomenally.
Phenomenally.
Really
I can't say it now.
Okay, it's drawing well. The story is great. You can feel the emotion in various characters as they realise the consequences of their actions and where they're going to have to go. You can see how much Tony cares for James Rhodes. So even if you look at this as a jumping on point for new readers, it's pretty good. You can jump on. You don't need to know all the ins and outs and details over the last 30 or 40 years of these characters. Which, if I compare it to DC Rebirth, which we talked about last episode, you need to know that for DC Rebirth. So I'd say Civil War is great for new readers and old readers, but DC Rebirth, even though it's sold absolute bucket loads for the first time in years and years and years, a DC title has outsold Marvel in a major event, which is quite big for DC. DC Rebirth, if you're an old fan, buy it. Marvel, Civil War, new fan, old fan, buy Civil War because it looks like it's going to be an awesome story. And there's actually an issue coming out in about a month and a half, issue 3. They're actually wrapping it in a black bag so that it doesn't give away which character dies before you actually read it.
So you'll get that in about 6 months?
Yeah, so I'll get that in about 6 months, no doubt. If I'm really hoping Marvel don't run late on this, because they've done this with countless other events. The original Civil War, there was months between issues because they had issues with the artist not being able to keep up. The same with Secret Wars, it was supposed to last 3 months, it lasted 9 months. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed I'm actually going to get the next issue next month.
Okay, anything else in your week of Geek?
That was just about it. Actually, just briefly, my heart absolutely melted this week. Sat on the sofa, we were talking about X-Men films with my 2 boys, and my oldest boy, William, turned to me and said, "Dad, what do you think your favourite Metallica song is?" And I haven't talked about my favourite music with him for quite a while. I just thought, you want to know my favourite Metallica song? I was like, I think it's probably Unforgiven. What about you, William? And he was like, And then he reeled off about 5 Metallica songs that he would have never known from living with me, because I haven't got the CDs in the house anymore. My CDs have disappeared, they've been trashed. And Metallica is one of my favourite bands ever. And he said, I think I'd have to say Ride the Lightning or Master of Puppets. But he said, yeah, I like My Apocalypse. That's my favourite. I was like, my boy loves Metallica on his own, independently. So I was just like, yeah, brilliant, yeah. You know, I didn't say that. I didn't kind of like that. But, you know, inside I was going, yes, my son has good music taste. So, yeah, that was just my best moment of the week. Brilliant.
So that is the end of another episode of World of Stew. It just leaves me enough time to say thank you to anyone for listening. You can, of course, check us out on our website, which is www.silentmoviemand.wix.com/World of Stew. You can also find us on Facebook, which is just World of Stew. You can't miss it. So it just leaves me enough time to say thank you for everyone for listening, and thank you for being on the show, Dave.
Always fun, always welcome.
And we are going to close with a song of your choice this week because it was your birthday yesterday.
It was, thank you very much.
So many happy returns. And what song would you like us to end on?
You know, I think I am going to have to go for Metallica.
And which one?
It will have to go for My Apocalypse.
If you'd have said anything else then, you'd have been the worst dad ever.
I wouldn't do it. I thought about it briefly, but I was like, no, it has to be that one.
You were like, I'm going to go for Unforgiven, I'm going to go for Unforgiven, I'm going to go for Unforgiven, oh, I can't.
No, I have had that stuck in my head all day, but yeah, I am going to have to go for, My Apocalypse.
Okay, so we are going to finish with Metallica, My Apocalypse, and until next week, keep it geek.
Contemplate.